this community is your backup, okay? Because one time I had an instance in the Bronx where I was alone and the community helped me. You understand? So it's how you treat that community. I tell everybody that community is your backup. So don't go in there trying to do that, trying to play super cop or, to them, okay? You better serve them. You better respect them. And they should respect you the same.
Yeah. This is that. Yeah. Young Pira overdiller, behind the mic like the will of a vehicular killer.
Hey, what's up, everybody? You are now tuned into the Chop Up. Now, in this episode, we'll be interviewing an NYPD officer torn between two worlds. In one world, he is a minority, an African-American male. And in the other world, he is obligated by his duty to protect and serve. Now, we've also seen the coordinated efforts of activist groups working together to unite the community and voicing out their disapproval of police brutality. I also think it's important to get the perspective of a law enforcement officer who is actually in the fields during these protests and marches, so we can get a better understanding what it is like being in their shoes on a day-to-day basis during these trying times. So I hope you guys stay tuned. We're going to be talking to the NYPD officer to try to understand what he sees daily and to also hear some recommendations on what he feels could possibly improve community relations. This is the Chop Up.
Everybody's trying to shame us into being embarrassed about our profession. Stop treating us like animals and bugs and start treating us with some respect.
How are you coping now that you are an officer of the law on a day-to-day basis, having to be out there and, deal with this, mass congregation of people?
Well, for one, I think everybody, no matter law enforcement, anybody, I think everybody feels the same way about the situation. Everybody in law enforcement feels the same way about the situation. But the thing is, when we're out there, people don't look at it that way. They just see us all in the same light because of the uniform. Like, I've been out there the last 2 nights working this event. I don't want to call it event, but working these protests, these riots, and that's my assignment for the next few days. And what I'm noticing is some of the people out there are just opportunists. They're out there just to riot and break windows. And then on the other hand, there's some who out there for George Floyd, because there's some I've had conversations with. I had a really nice, genuine conversation with one of them on Saturday. So, everybody you see out there is not the same. Like they show the media, riots, protests, they're all not the same out there. Some of them are really out there because, they want change, and out there just being opportunists to, run amok on things and get away with it if they're not caught.
Regardless of your skin color, and because this situation happened to an unarmed Black man while he was being restrained by multiple police officers, do other minorities approach you as a minority police officer with negative comments or negative criticisms because you're a badge?
Oh, okay. Well, let's go for Friday night, 34th Street, one on the other side. Oh, look at that Uncle Tom over there. Then another time, as they're marching by, a female just to me, you're Black and I'm fighting for you. Then another person says, oh, you're a disgrace to your race. I've heard it all. After a while, it's just part of the job.
Now, in terms of so for instance, right, I think, and again, thank you for what you do. I think because of all the media and the outrage, the protests, I think we tend to forget that it's a very, very hard job, right? It's a very hard job to do. So thank you. As far as community policing, right, I know you mentioned the community that you are, 34th Street, the community that you're protecting, are also very critical of you because you are protecting Black people in times of, crises like such as we're going through right now. What do you think of some of the things that we can do as a community to help make your job easier as a Black police officer? Like, any suggestions or conversations that you think need to be held in order for us to make you do your job easier, make you motivated to want to do your job better, I think would be even another way of putting it.
Well, the thing is, I think generally if the community and the police work together, you get generally a better result of things. Like, I don't know if you guys live in Brooklyn North, but there's a guy there who's head of all the police there, Chief Madry. He does a lot of community policing. That's all he's about. They're out there every day in the community, serving the community. They go by, they, put the sirens on when it's a kid's birthday just to shout them out happy birthday. A lot of that stuff happens, but the media doesn't show it. And I just think as a community, the first step as a community, everybody has to work together. Like, if there's anything going on in your community that should not be going on in the community, it's the community's job to report that to the police. And also, far as, of course, some people feel afraid that, when they see a policeman walking, how they may be stopped or how they may be treated. But I think the first thing is that also comes from the police themselves. The higher ups themselves, they have to do programs where they interact with the community more. We do it, but that's most of it's time that's on our time. But there should just be things where they interact with the community, because they had that when I was younger, the 7-3 precinct. They had that where youths were able to come to the precinct and they did karate class, they did video games, they did all those things like that. Now, if all of those things happen, then I think we could have a better relation between the community and the police.
I mean, like, what's the protocol? Like, I know you're saying if we have these programs, things will be better between the police and the community, but a lot of the people in the community have faced generational turmoil. Like, they've had parents that probably had their lives taken from the position of a police officer, or their uncles. So a lot of these things are trickled down. So as a young kid, that's all they experience. They experience their older relatives go through that pain, and they pass that pain on to their kids. So their kids naturally are not going to be trusting and putting their full trust into a police officer. So despite, you're saying that there could be some type of programs that can kind of integrate the community with the police department. Like, what is the protocol? Because I really want to focus in on how the George Floyd situation was handled and how multiple officers can be on an unarmed individual. But is there any protocol where you first interrogate, or you pretty much ask for ID? Like, I really don't know what has been going on with the police department, because all I see on the media is police confrontation. You know what I mean? So at my point, I'm like, what is the protocol? Like, what is the ABC that you guys have to do before it gets to the level that I've seen on social media?
Okay, well, what happens is what I noticed, because there was some situations where I was at personally that you might have seen on the news, you might have seen on a video, where you only saw the end of the confrontation. That's what I'm noticing. I always ask, okay, what happened to the beginning? You understand? So, like, that's what I wish people would, when they're judgmental, they would, just, use a little bit more. I don't want to say common sense, because, like, for example, if you watch a movie, right? If I give you a movie, right, and I put it on, say, the last 10 minutes of it, what's your question going to be? You're going to want to see, how did it lead up to that last 10 minutes, right? Right? You'd want to see what led up to the last 10 minutes, because like, I've seen some of these videos where when the police did approach them in the beginning, it wasn't what you saw in the video. It was a reason why the police were there. I can't say every single video you saw is like that. That's not what I'm saying. And nothing to do with George Floyd at all. I'm just speaking of videos in general, like when you said there was a disorderly, like we had a disorderly like a few weeks ago. The guy was like breaking glass windows, threatening people, telling them he's going to shoot them. You know, then the cops get there, you know, they just they talk to them. They're like, you all right? You know, what's wrong with you? You know, and, you know, when you have an emotionally disturbed person, we ask them, do you need a bus? Meaning a EMT. That's the first thing. And then what this guy did, he punched one of the officers in the face. So what happens were, you know, we call for backup. They called for that. They got there. They tackled the guy. I see it on World Star Hip Hop. I'm like, okay, they didn't put the beginning of that. Why don't they put the whole confrontation? Now, the George Floyd thing, I want to speak on that. That was not police work at all. That was not police work. That was not police protocol. That was no training can defend that, because once a guy is cuffed, it's over. If you can come punch me in the face, you could have killed someone. I cuff you, it's over. I cannot take any shots. The guy was lying down. The guy was cuffed. He was threat. You already had 3 guys on his back already. What the reason this man's knee was on his neck for, that's nothing to do with policing. So
my follow-up question is this. Okay, so I like everything you're saying thus far. But in terms of, once the guy's cuffed, it's over, right? But I think the discord or the break in communication between the public and the police community is this, right? They charged the other 3 people that were the other 3 officers, correct? And they claimed that was their training officer. So they were kind of following his lead, because one of them was only on the job for 4 days, you know, saying that, hey, you know, I was training. I didn't know what to do. Do we stop our training officer? And so 2 of them are pretty new, and the Asian cop had been on the force for a while. However, the thing is, this occurred, at least I think today, about 9 days ago. So if you have a problem, why didn't you go, when you went back to the precinct, why didn't you report this to IA or any other people of, you know, position in the police department? They didn't do that. So now it's a conflict between, was it the blue code of silence versus ethical code, right? And humanity. And I think that's where the waters get a little murky between, you know, civilians and police, is the fact that we don't see a lot of officers reporting when something goes bad. It's always, it has to have video. You know, if there are 10 officers, Eric Garner, for instance, there were at least 8 officers around there. If there wasn't a video, maybe one person would have got indicted, because no one else was willing to step up and say, this is the wrong thing to do. So where does the blue code of silence come in, and where does humanity and being a Black officer have to play a part as well?
And is there truly a blue code of silence that you can even speak on? Because that's only stuff I've heard, you know, but is there a blue code of silence? Because
blue code and blue wall. I'm not necessarily sure of the term.
Turn your back.
Let's not get the phonetics. What are your thoughts on that? If you can't speak to.
No, I can. No, I'm glad you mentioned that. So I'll just break it down for everything you said. Okay, that blue code of silence, or that blue wall or whatever, you know what I mean? And that's, you know, I'm not going to get too much, you know, into that, but that does not exist, okay? That does not exist. That blue wall does not exist, okay? That's just for, Facebook props or decoration. That's the furthest that blue code goes. Trust me when I tell you. Because I'll just put it like this. No such thing. I'll leave it at that, because sometimes, you know, when they say people can be each other's worst enemies, and I'll just leave it at that. That blue wall does not exist.